Hey, so here we are in a DOS box, and if you're wondering what I'm doing in a DOS box in the year 2013, I will tell you. I found this old program of mine that I had written when I was a senior in high school. It was a quiz program that had an editor that you could edit a database of lectures and multiple choice questions or fill in the blank questions, and it also had a player. You could distribute with a database and it would quiz people. And it was used by the George Washington University Department of Physiology. So I'll just fire up the player here. I don't actually have the physiology database. So I did find a bunch of pictures that I drew for them from pictures they'd given me. This is beautiful EGA, if you remember. It's 640 dots across by 350 dots up and down, and each one of those dots can be any one of 16 colors. So you can see just how nice EGA graphics were. Let's just sort of kick it off here and start. This is a sample lecture. This is just a little test file I created with the pictures. And I was a big Depeche Mode fan back in the day, and so I had a test here that had the band members, and it would tell you what they were, and then it quizzes you on it later. And so I kept that for the demo here because it's funny. And it has heritage because of being able to hit Alt-Q and get an upside-down question mark, or Alt-O and get an accent over your O, because I originally wrote it as a project for the Spanish Honor Society. You had to do something to prove your worthiness to be in it, some kind of project. And I decided that I would write a Spanish quizzing program. So let's just say, okay, we've read this lecture, and now, here's another random picture that I made for them. It's asking us who is the best band in the whole world, and it tells us that they were mentioned in the opening section. So let's go with New Kids on the Block. They're the best band, right? I guess. Oh, that was wrong. I got that one wrong. It tells me incorrect answer. All right, well, what's the next question? Who are the members in the band Depeche Mode? And this was circa 1991, so that would be 4 people. Alan Wilder. And then we have Dave Gahan, Andrew Fletcher, and Martin Gore. All right, so then we say we're done. And it says, yes, that was right. And it gives us some statistics about your performance. It says I was asked 5 questions. I got 4 right, 1 wrong for 80%. I go to the review menu. The lectures for any questions that I missed will be enabled. It won't ask me, that little hollow circle means it won't ask me that again. So I can go review the lecture and go see, oh yeah, okay. And then you go to the next, and then it asks me this question. This time I'll get it right. And it's Depeche Mode. So there you go. Now we're done. We can quit. So there was help, like a help section for how to use it, and it was interesting for the time. So now let's look at the editor. The editor was a text mode program, and it could you could go in here and you could edit your text for your lecture, and then if you remembered all the shortcuts that I had totally forgotten and had to refine, Alt-W will switch you to the window where you can, put in the list of pictures that you want to have accompanying that lecture, and then people can page through them with the left and right cursor keys. And we'll abandon our changes here. Here you can see how a multiple choice question was entered. You write the text over here on the left, and then you go over to these this other window, and you can list the correct answers, and then you can also list the deceptive answers. And you notice here there are 4 deceptive answers. A couple of people you haven't heard of because they were inside jokes with me and my friends, but the number of deceptive answers or correct answers it's going to put in the mix is up in the little corner of the window there, which I could go and change. Right now it's 3, so it's going to pick 3 of these with 1 out of the 1 in the top list. If I wanted to, I could go and I could change that to some other band, like these days I'm listening to Mesh. I would accept Mesh as well these days. But still, I'm only going to pick one of those, and then I could go down to the next window and I could say, well, mix that up with any four of these. So there's going to be a total of 5 choices, and then I can save my changes, and we can go and run the thing again. Here we go. Let's not do the lecture. Let's not do that. Let's just go ahead and ask that one question. And you can see here that, yes, indeed, we now have 5 choices. We have 2 possibilities, and we will accept Mesh as being best band in the world. I've been listening to a lot of Mesh lately. So that's how it worked, and yeah, that's what it did. But since I found it, I thought, well, I'm going to put this on GitHub, and I did. So it's gone into my teenage coding repository here, which if I ever find any more stuff, I've found 2 things so far. And if I ever find anything else of these old embarrassing code bases, I'll put them up. Yeah, I would seriously slap myself silly. You don't have to go any further than like the first line of executed code to find what I consider a mistake. Certainly, if you get down here to the main function, the first thing it does, very first thing, is it copies the program's argv0 argument. That's the path of where the executable is running from, into a fixed 80 character buffer, and then it proceeds to change that from .exe to .dat. And although it was kind of atypical for paths in DOS, because the directory names tended to be 8 characters, and you would have a little chain of 8 character directories, it would take a while to get up to 80. It still is the sort of thing that this program is full of what I would consider bad practices. But I didn't have the benefit of Stack Overflow and all these great resources, which I advise any kids learning programming today to take advantage of, because back in my day we did not have it, and you couldn't have people correcting you that quickly. So and learning that quickly, you just had a book, like one book maybe. And but there was also an installer in Turbo Pascal, and then there was a floppy disk database maker in Pascal. And I haven't programmed in Pascal so long, I was like, wait, so comments were in curly braces? Oh yeah, I kind of remember that, but it's been a very long time. I was just starting to use generic data structure library, this thing called FlexList. That guy doesn't seem to have a web presence anymore, but he did write a book about it. And I used a couple of other libraries to display the pictures. They were PCX files. And I guess there's a lot of little funny things to look at if you read it, because this program was going to be going in the library, and because the kids would tend to open up the programs and change the data files to say, profanities or whatever the hacker people would do. They didn't want that to be possible. So in the file IO routines, I came up with I used a rotating XOR cipher with this crazy password. And of course, rotating XOR ciphers are very useless, but that's the only thing I knew, that you could XOR with the data, then you XOR it, and you get the data back. So someone reading through the data files with the questions and answers couldn't go in and change them very easily. Little things like that in here that are kind of funny to look at. So hopefully someone someday will be amused. I certainly am. But if none of this amused you, I will amuse you with something else, which is that in the spirit of that boring books video, I've set all the pictures and the titles of those pictures to creepy music, and I read them in a monotonous voice. So please enjoy the boring pictures. Long volumes during ventilation in liters. Oxygen potential versus conductance. Receptor comparison, rapidly adapting, slowly adapting, and stimulus. oxygen potential of the nerve, milliseconds versus millivolts. Host synaptic potentials, milliseconds versus millivolts. Renal capillary beds, afferent and efferent arterioles, glomerular and peritubular capillaries. Conduction velocity in a sensory nerve. Lung units, blood vessel obstruction, normal gas exchange, and airway obstruction. Regional gas exchange in the lung. Outer, middle, and inner ear. Coding for the frequency of stimulation, action potential versus skin indentation. Gas transport to the periphery, A. Gas transport to the periphery, B. Regional lung ventilation differences at high lung volume. Regional lung ventilation differences at low lung volume. Pressure volume inspiratory work curve. Muscle stretch reflex. Vertical osmotic gradient in renal medulla in milliosmoles. Oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve. Mechanism for excretion of urine from higher to lower interstitial fluid osmolality.